Good evening, Amy. Hello. Hi, Leo. Lillian. Hello. I hope you're feeling better today. How are you pronouncing that name? It's either Las Exicans or Las Hicans. Or if it's Chinese, I guess we would be more like Las Chicans. Wait for a few more people to join. Tonight's beverage of choice is a Meiomi Pinot Noir. It's California coast, so it's probably going to be a little bit dry and a little bit bitter. Abofacial. New names tonight. That's cool. That is a very tough cap. And Cheryl. Hello. I'm wearing 2 of your rings right now. This is ridiculous. Okay, I need help. Somebody with stronger hands than mine needs to come over and open my wine bottle for me. This is ridiculous. Maybe I won't be drinking this tonight. Ha! I'll drink this. Oh, yes, I will. Maybe it's because I'm an idiot. I wonder if it's a twist off. I am an idiot. This is bizarre. So, I had a couple of questions that were given earlier in the day, so I have stuff to talk about. I don't think it is. I think it's a twist off that's supposed to be serrated, but since I just mangled it with a foil breaker, it's not doing that anymore. I just learned how to wine yesterday. Weird. Now I can get little shards of aluminum in my tasty beverage. So we had a couple of questions. The first one, we will start with Amy. So the question was laser versus electrolysis for face and GCS area. So I'm curious. All right, well, let's start with identifying terms for everybody because new people might not know all of the terms and the differences. So GCS for gender confirmation or confirming surgery, laser being a method for hair removal which uses laser of specific frequency to heat up the hair and in turn damage the follicle, versus electrolysis where a needle is inserted into the follicle, a current is applied or heat down the needle. A current is down the needle and it creates a resistance and heat, and that burns out the follicle and the hair is pulled out. So I've done both in both areas. I don't know exactly what the question is, but one thing that seems to work for a lot of people, especially if you have a mix of hair colors or darker hair, is start with laser, get as much removed as possible, and just do electrolysis on the lighter hairs. If you have gray hair, you're pretty much stuck with laser, or excuse me, with electrolysis because the laser is not going to work at all. Light blonde hairs, it's kind of the same issue. The darker the hair and the lighter the skin, the easier it is, the fewer times you need to go back with a laser and re-zap it. With both methods, the thing about hair removal is it really only kills it when it's in the growth stage. So not all of your hair is growing at the same time. Hi, Lauren. So since it's not all growing at the same time, only the stuff that is growing is going to die, so you need to do this a number of times. And then each time you try to kill a hair, it may or may not actually destroy the follicle. So that's where you're going to come down to skill of the technician and just having to redo the hairs a lot. Like they say there's like 20 or 30,000 hairs on the face, and I've had, gosh, probably 70,000 hairs removed. I stopped counting at one point. It was a lot. And after a while, it's just like the numbers got less interesting, especially when you miss one or two and you find out your numbers are off because the technician didn't count how many lasers were pulled with electrolysis. I find that electrolysis does tend to hurt some more. Oh, because it's a California, I'm going to have to diffuse it, so it's probably not going to be as tasty. As like I said before, I like the New Zealand and the Marlborough County wines done in Australia. Lauren, you should get some wine. I mean, I think that is your jam. Our jam, even. So, cheers. It's okay. Not great. Not bad. Not great. I don't know why I continue to buy California Pinots. They're just not my favorite. So, I did make a mess though. Holy cow. Somebody bring me a napkin. So yeah, with the electrolysis, it's hair by hair. So the pain, I don't know what your pain tolerance is. It can get pretty intense. A lot of times they can have you rub a topical, what's the word? Like a lidocaine cream. And, hi Janie, Hannah. And that can help with numb the skin a little bit, but it's still you're still going to feel it. It'll be rather intense. The laser can be ramped up to be more intense, but they'll usually start lower and kill as many hairs with a lower setting as they can. Then each subsequent time they can choose to ramp it up. Yeah, upper lip is pretty rough for me. My worst spot is right down here and right in the corners. The upper lip hurt. This just about made me tap out and be like, nope, I'm done. More new people. Hi, I love new people. So, yeah, and it's going to be the same thing, same kind of process for the groin area. Your surgeon is going to talk about what their hair pattern for removal is. There's a little bit of discussion. Meta studies show that whether you do hair removal prior to surgery or not doesn't seem to matter much in the end result for the the frequency of hair growth within the neovagina. So if you're worried about that, the main thing is better safe than sorry, but also depending on the time you have until surgery, depending on the amount of money you have, might be better to find out what do you actually need to do. Am I removing too much hair? Is it just around? What kind of, basically talk to your surgeon and they'll tell you what they need. Where I'm going, they required 3 sessions of laser hair removal. And I've had 8, as well as a number of hours of electrolysis, specifically around the base of the penis and through the right in front of the scrotum and a little bit under the scrotum in the perineal area. So there's a lot of, yeah, you're not wrong. It depends on the type of the surgery, but at the same time, it depends on the surgeon. Not all surgeons require it, no matter what the surgery. The practice is when they're working with your tissue that the parts that are going to be reused and reconfigured and molded and pasted and stuck back in, whether it's penile inversion or what, some of that skin and tissue is going to get reused. And practice is that they scrape and burn the backside of it, which should remove the follicles. But like anything else, one can be missed. So, yeah. that's just going to be how it goes. And so that's all I got to say on that. I did a lot, and most people do a lot, and if it's too much, we'll find out in about a year or so if it was enough or not. So answered that one. There's a really hard question in here that I'm really kind of worried about taking on right now. Lillian asked me, what's my best quality? I don't know. I can find fault in everything that I do, say, or look like, so I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that one. Maybe I'll get back to you. Yes, you will help. We're going to have a discussion about this hard one in a minute. So this one, transgender representation in art and media. Oh, I'm not fearless. I have quite a bit of fear, and those are the things that I take on intentionally because of that. I want to fight against that fear. I don't want anybody to know I'm afraid. Transgender representation in art and media. It's a bit of an open-ended kind of statement, as in, what are my thoughts on this? I find it interesting how it's going. Growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of transgender representation, and instead what we saw were things like MASH with Klinger, who was using cross-dressing as a way to claim that he was mentally ill so that he could get his discharge, which kind of takes you into the Yossarian catch-22 thing of, if you think you're crazy, then you must not be. So there's that. There's bosom buddies, which I don't know if it's exactly that in my head. I thought bosom buddies was one of them was dressing up and behaving like a woman. Tootsie was the same way. And it's always been something in the past when I was growing up where anybody that was transgender was for some sort of deceptive purpose to get away with something that somehow being a woman makes it easier to do. In this case, it was usually to get around, like, something to do with don't want to look gay, so we have to look like we're cohabitating. There's a movie that I saw when I was little that I would like to rewatch called Victor Victoria, and I want to see that. And my understanding is Madame Butterfly was another example, but I haven't watched those, so not recently, where I was a little more cognizant of what was going on. So I'd really like to see what the attitude was there. I was just reading a thread posted by a supposedly LGBT-friendly user on Instagram, and they were talking about Never Saw the Crying Game. But again, that was a deception, wasn't it? I only know because of Ace Ventura and how it was the joke. It was the punchline. But it was always a deception, joke, punchline sort of thing. So, okay, maybe I should watch that one. So the question was, should LGBT, specifically in this case gay people, be presented outside the scope of it's a plot point? And I kind of think absolutely it should. I think that we are among the populace, not as plot points. We are just people, and once we get going with our transition and we kind of figure our shit out and are just living our life, we're just other people. And so I would love to see more trans representation in media where it isn't a plot point, where it's simply, oh, that person's trans, whatever, okay, cool. Maybe it does matter in the case of if you're going to be talking about a relationship and bring on a hard question of how do you approach that subject. But, in a sitcom, it probably doesn't really have a place. Having a trans person in a sitcom totally has a place because, frankly, we're fucking hilarious. Not all of us, but most of us tend to have some sort of weirdness in our brain that makes jokes out of hard things to deal with them. That's just observational. I haven't watched any of Supergirl, so I would have a lot of catching up to do. I don't know that character. But one of the things that I saw was, Soldier's Girl which was a pretty good representation of what the military was like in the 90s, and it was still like that when I was in. Don't ask, don't tell was a thing. Living in infantry barracks during peacetime, people get pretty stupid. So that was a pretty good representation where the trans person wasn't a punchline. It was based on a true story, and it was a heartbreaking story. I won't spoil too much of it, even though it was in the news. Yeah, Lee Pace is yummy. My wife and I can agree on that one. I bawled my eyes out in that movie, and a lot of it was because it was so relatable into the way the dude hive mind works in a situation like that, where you're taught to be, high-speed hoo-ah badass, and at the same time you're fairly impotent sitting in the barracks. You do stupid, ugly things. Another one, I thought that Boy Meets Girl was lovely. It was, some people panned it thinking that her being trans was the punchline of some of the humor, which I didn't take it that way. I didn't get that from watching it. I thought it, or some things I didn't agree with how things were handled, but frankly, everybody's trans journey is different and everybody handles things in a different way. So, of course it's going to be different. I thought it was a lovely story. That one, again, cried my eyes out. Yeah, Don't Ask, Don't Tell is pretty brutal. I know a lot of guys in the military that were having some weird hard times with that one, for sure. But good representation of a trans woman played by a trans woman, yes. The other thing I would like to see is trans women played by cis women instead of trans women always. If it's going to be a cis person, trans women get played by cis men. Trans men trying to get played by cis women. Try, actually playing the gender they are. Use that person as a role. But that's only, I think, if, like, there was that story, I can't remember that guy's name in Chicago, little hoodlum, asshole of a guy, trans man, who basically ran bathhouses and stuff. And it was, who was it? Nicole Mays is a real transgender woman who plays herself, but is also a superhero, and she keeps her trans self quiet. Okay. Until I watch it, I can't say much about it. And that was going to be a weird thing, and that was kind of it's a whole topic for a whole episode of something. But just the concept of a woman playing the trans man, just because she could, I guess. But it's like, if you're not going to get a trans man to play the role, get a guy to play the role, a cis guy. Because I think that, either way, here's a dude. Get a dude to play the role. But that's just my take, and I think there's a lot of discussion that could be going in there. I didn't say they shouldn't be the first thought for casting trans roles. I also know that there aren't a whole lot, or I don't know, but my assumption is the pool of big name trans women that are going to draw a crowd is very small. And for a lot of these movies, if you're looking for a big name actor or actress to be in it, there aren't a whole lot of trans people currently. So, maybe someday. It was kind of like the Upside, I think it was, where they're like, how come you had an able-bodied person playing a quadriplegic? Like, how many quadriplegics are good actors for that role? I don't know. I don't know what their casting pool was like. But, I think the first shot should try to do it right, to do it especially in a biopic. I think that's important. But, when it comes to just a character who's randomly trans, it's like, okay, I don't have as much of an issue. Like, if a man or a woman wants to play a trans woman, and it's just a role that they really want to try to take on. I thought Lee Pace did a great job in Soldier's Girl. At the time, I don't know if there were any trans women that would have done the role well. I just don't know. So, No, I'm saying, oh yeah, I'm saying if you can't find a trans person to play the role, get a cis person of the appropriate gender to play the role instead of constantly making it the raised gender and switching for the movie. I think it's going to be a lot more of a bold move if you make somebody who is not trans transition for the beginning of said movie so that they come to their own throughout. Kind of strange, but I don't know, that's just my thought on it. We also just watched, what was that really depressing movie? I talked about it last time, Man into Woman. The Danish Girl. I thought that actor did a great job pulling out the feminine aspects of his character for that role. I thought did a great job. I thought if that biopic is anything like reality, she shit all over her support system. So I'd have to read the book to see how much of that was dramatization and how much was actually, how it's written down in the memoir. Pretty strange. Awesome. Congratulations, Amy. That's very exciting. Okay, so that's enough of me on that topic. This is here's another easier question that I like. Open doors for us or set a bad example? Why not both? So talking to some of the trans kids at one of the local high schools, I go there once a month and we talk about whatever is on their mind. It's an offshoot of their GSA, and so myself and two other trans folks, we go and we talk to them on a monthly basis and just see what's up. And I asked them, I was just like, so what, at this age, what made them feel like it was more acceptable or comfortable to, one, even explore these thoughts and feelings, and then two, actually come out as transgender? And one person was like, well, actually, it was Caitlyn Jenner. And everybody else was like, oh, yeah. So it was like, whether you like her or not, her politics or not, her as a person didn't matter nearly as much as she was visible, highly visible. And it made a lot of people that weren't thinking about this able to have the conversation. So, hello, Cara girl. So it was just one of those things where I think people are going to take any single situation and find a way to shit on it if they don't agree with it, or take what they want from it. But I do see that just for getting the dialogue more out there, she was a pretty good influence. Jazz. I have not seen anything of Jazz except I have her followed on Instagram, but she doesn't really post a whole lot. Her book, I went to a book reading of I Am Jazz for little kids at a library. We tabled there with Glisten, and that was kind of interesting. It was kind of fun. A girl about 10 years old read the book to a bunch of kids that were like 6, and it was a lovely experience at the library. But yeah, Jazz, I think that is on TV because it's a hot button issue and for the drama. I haven't watched the show, so I don't know how much it's hyped as drama. But like even in other places where I go with like older trans people think, well, how's this kid even going to know? And they would gatekeep very hard somebody that young, and they're pissed off that she's so out already. It's almost like I had to pay my dues, so she should have to too, which kind of leads to kind of the true scum and the transmed people that are just like, you have to have dysphoria, crippling dysphoria, or you're not trans. And I'm just like, a lot of us, especially the people on this channel right now who are watching this video, we had to wait until our dysphoria was bad enough that we hit a breaking point and the only solution was to crack the egg or die. And the reason for that is because of the fear, the anxiety, the depression, that socially being transgender is a bad thing. And so we had to overcome that. I don't know how it is for the transmasculine community, but a lot of it also is because in our society, at least in the US, also being female is lesser than male. So we're stepping down in that stature, but we're going from, top, because I think everybody in here, so far as I know, is also Caucasian, top of the food pile, to second bottom. Only people a little more marginalized than us are trans women of color. And so to take that demotion, we were desperate. But just think if when you were very young, one, you had the vocabulary, or at least the experiences in media around you to understand that what's in your head doesn't always line up with your body. Bye. Have a good shift. It's Samantha. Hi, Sam. We can go live if you like. We're having ourselves a little conversation. If we're very young and able to find that we've got the ability, the safe space to actually explore these thoughts and come out, I don't think your dysphoria would have to be nearly as bad as a lot of us experienced before using that venue. Sam, did you want to go live? Just answering a few questions. So yeah, that was my thought on that. I was just thinking about that today. It just kind of hit me. It's like it really comes down to like how much of this is kind of how doctors train new doctors. The whole like year of hell in residency is such a archaic way of doing things that could kill people, because people make mistakes when they're exhausted. And just working through being exhausted, eventually you're just going to have a problem. It's not something you just get used to. You don't make better and better decisions while exhausted. You end up breaking down over time and getting worse and worse. So so Amy's point here is feels the media hyped up Caitlyn. I do too. She was kind of nobody to me, except for, I think the Soup had made a comment, was it Joel McHale on the Soup? Had made a comment about, before she had come out, she was just kind of in the background of, is it Keeping Up with the Kardashians? And the only reason I know about all of those reality shows is because I used to watch The Soup on E, and, I think it was E, and he would just kind of, they'd show Caitlyn in the background when before she was out, going, and Bruce is slowly turning into a woman. And that was just kind of like, it wasn't even judgment on the way he said it. It was just like, in the background, all this crap's happening around, and here's Bruce just looking different. And then finally came out Caitlyn, and it was just like, oh yeah, well, okay, that made sense. You called it. Good job. I thought it was strange that, like, Athlete of the Year, I get it, wanting to show some representation and respect for the difficulty in doing that in a high-profile life and position. I can understand that, but I didn't think she really did any. I personally hate when people call me brave for doing this, for transitioning. It's like I don't feel brave. I felt desperate. I was reaching for any rope, and I found the one that didn't hang me. And so I don't feel brave at all. I felt like it was the only option left to me. So I don't know. I have a hard time taking that sort of statement. Like it's something I can be, I'm not proud to be trans. I am trans, and I am proud of the life I've been able to make while trans. But I am not proud of being trans, because being trans is, I just simply am. I'm not proud of being American. I simply am American. It's just where I was born. So, yeah, Lauren, I agree. It's like, why am I brave and strong for saving my own life? It's, if anything, it feels a little selfish, especially the crap I put my wife through to make her deal with this stuff. It feels very selfish, and that being selfish is hard. So I don't feel proud of it. I don't feel brave. So I don't know, just kind of strange. So here's the question that's a little hard to answer, and this person is not on, but I think it's a relevant thing to talk about. And I think as all of us go through our journeys, so long as we are public and open with our experiences, hi Ray, as long as we're open with our experiences, we are going to get younger people that are asking us these kinds of questions. Now, this question is very vague. It's, how to come out to strict parents. I don't know. I came out at 42. And so my strict dad, I already don't talk to anymore. Found out my sister let him know. And unfortunately, he didn't have a heart attack when he heard, but he was very upset and would just say, my son is dead. I'm like, yeah, you don't have a son. Bye. But I already didn't talk to him. So it was not a big deal on that side. And my mom was pretty non-existent from just support type of role growing up. Lady Demonrin? See, Demonrin, I don't know how you're saying that, but that makes me think of Lady Demondrid from The Wheel of Time. Anyway, the biggest thing that I've said to the kids in group at the high school where I am, there's a large Hispanic population at that high school, and often with strict parents, often with very Catholic religious parents, a lot of machismo in their culture. And first thing is, are you safe? Is it safe to come out? If you're not safe, bide your time. It feels, and this thing is horrible because as, I'm assuming young teenagers are just not quite wired yet for long-term consequences. They're not thinking about long-term consequences. It's just not hardwired into their brain yet. And that's just kind of a biological thing of brain development. And so it's hard to say bide your time, wait until you're in a safe space. Are you able to dark, young, giant, dick, gifted? Oh my God, you are like the trifecta, or that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pentafecta? So, I don't believe you, and I don't want to see it. But the serious thing, though, is, these kids, if you're living in a house that is not supportive of, say, LGBT things, issues of anything that are outside the social norms, maybe staying closeted for another couple of years and just doing little things that you can. The biggest thing I can think of is build your support system. Make sure you're building sound friendships. Make sure that you're able to talk to your friends at school. At least get one good ally. Find your local GSA or support group, if you can go, that is for kids. But you hope that your parents would love you no matter what. And even if they love you, does not mean they'll accept you. And if they aren't able to handle things, you could be in a desperate situation very quickly, and then things get out of control very fast. If you're in a physically abusive, because I assume if somebody's saying how to come out to strict parents, I'm assuming strict means mildly, if not overtly, abusive. Otherwise, I don't think they would have asked that question that way. So, yeah, building that support network, though, is very important. There are also, what I find is a whole lot more kids now that are more accepting of modifying gender roles and bucking society in that way, that there has to be just this binary and that's all there is, and you have to fit into it in a hard way. It's like, no, I think there's a lot of room for more gender types as well as just experiences. I think everybody experiences a lot of these things in a different way, and to be able to communicate with peers, you're already, my parents suck, and you're already doing that sort of thing with your friends anyway. So if you're able to be around like-minded people, somebody that you can, when you go to school, maybe you're wearing a little bit of lip gloss, maybe you're able to wear shoes or socks of the gender you are more inclined to feel. And maybe you're not. But the thing is, if you don't know how your parents are going to react, and frankly, you don't know how your parents are going to react, be safe. Being safe first is most important. So I'm going to read this here. I'm not going to say who it is in case this comes out later and it's tough. But 42, conservative family, struggling to come out, been on HRT for a year, feel scared, love the transition. It can work. I was 42 when I came out. Hi, Naomi. We talked about your question earlier, so you had to catch the rewind. Yes, it can work. Just because you're 42 doesn't really mean anything other than, hopefully, you've built more tools and you have more life lessons. And when you're going through puberty the second time, you've got a whole lifetime of experience behind you, so you aren't a crazy teenage girl right now. You're a crazy middle-aged woman. And it's just like, well, I still feel all these emotions, and I still have bad days, and I still have some hard times, but I have better tools for dealing with those things. I don't think, it gets better. I don't know how accurate that is. Life does not get easier. If anything, it gets harder. I think just how we deal with it. We have better tools. We have more experience. So we've seen these types of things before. Coming from a conservative family, I know conservative families that love and embrace their trans children of any age, and I know non-religious families and liberal families that have pretty much sworn off their trans children of any age. Being conservative or liberal, being religious or non-religious, fundamental or not, does not, there might be trends one way or another, but nothing is a guarantee that the people you know and love are going to react the way you think they will. So part of that whole coming out is just being ready to lose everything. I was ready to lose my job. I was ready to lose my wife, ready to lose my family, my friends, everybody I knew, because the alternative was losing myself. And I wasn't quite, I tried earnest attempts 3 times to kill myself, and then a whole lot of ideation later, and practice. And, if anything, I wasn't ready, mostly because I'm curious and I want to see what happens. So just because I want to see what happens, I'm nosy. I want to see how life turns out. I want to see what happens in the next 20 years. And I wasn't ready to go because I feel like I hadn't made a difference in the world yet, and I would like to be able to make a difference in the world. And that's why I do these on Monday nights, is just, save these things, try to be out in the community, so that when there is a person, like, who was that said that? Do you use TT? Yeah, send me a message if you like. We can talk more privately after this. I'd be interested in hearing your story and talking to you. I was not ready because I needed to meet you. Yeah. Yeah. So Amy, I knew at work before. Neither of us knew the other person was trans. We didn't know that at the same time we were having similar thoughts because we were very well hidden. If nothing else, we're good actors and liars. Um, but yeah, I'd be interested in talking to you later. So please send me a private message. We can talk more. But yeah, I needed to meet you, Lauren. So there we go. That's why the timing is now. And where's your wine? So, what else do we have? I think I beat that dead horse a little bit. It's just hard coming out to strict parents. It's hard coming out to anybody. I don't know anybody that, well, I know a few people that have regretted how certain people reacted. I'm working tonight. And so it makes them regret, but my regrets for people would be more along the lines of, if people react that way, my regret is that I gave them so much place in my heart and my mind in the first place. So learning people's true colors when you're still you inside, and people can't accept you because your wrapper changed, that is pretty hard, and it actually makes me feel like I was a bad judge of character because I didn't catch that they were going to be like that. But your family, you don't get to pick your family. Well, I mean, there's your chosen family, but that's different than your blood family, which you were born into and you're stuck with as your blood family. But I was lucky in that over the last 20 years, I kind of separated myself a bit from most of my family. Just wasn't close with them. It wasn't like I pushed them away. It was just more like I didn't really relate to them that well. So I put more time and effort into my chosen family, and that is who has still stayed around, and they've been with me through all of this. I think they've all been basically mostly okay. I think some are still freaked out, but they own that their freak out is their own stuff. Yes, we will do a live before I go under the knife. 2 weeks. 2 weeks today. So Monday morning, 29th. Snippety snip. A little balloon animal magic. And then hopefully that's just one. And we'll see. Hopefully my big fear right now with the surgery is secondary infection. I'm not too worried about the surgery itself. It's the healing process and staying away from MRSA and things of that nature. So, what are you going to do? You got to still going forward. I'm going to do the best prep that I can, stay clean. But I also know the hospitals are where most of that stuff spreads. So it's a bit of a scary time. Going to have a bit of a going away party for my penis. I'm calling it So Long and Thanks for All the Fish, which I thought would be a funny last line for a penis. I'm super hoping that, I don't think they'll give me all the parts, but I want them in a jar. But if I can't get them in a jar, I want them spread out on the surgical tray, and then somebody take a picture of it, so that if anybody sends me a dick pic, I can send that picture back and be like, well, how about this one? Because that's the kind of humor that I have, and I think that'll be funny, and I almost can't wait for that to happen. But I don't know if they'll even go that far. I think that would be pretty amusing, though. Hi, Damien. Beef stew. I don't know. I have no idea what it'll look like. I mean, I don't want to eat it or anything. I just want a picture of it so that I can mess with creepers on the internet. Why not? I didn't get to keep my appendix when it burst, but I think at that point it's considered a biohazard, so you can't just go around with an infected appendix. They don't give you any of that stuff. I do know somebody when they had their vasectomy. When I had my vasectomy 10, 15 years ago, I kept sitting up trying to watch what he was doing, and he's like, sit back, you're going to pass out. I'm like, no, I'm really interested in how this goes. Because, they kind of hook the hook the vas deferens. They cut a little slice and they hook it and then pull the vas deferens through the hole and then cut, tie, burn, all that stuff. And they take a little piece out. So I was, fascinated. And I was telling my piercer about that. He's like, oh yeah, my buddy, he ate his. Like, when the doctor leaned back and wasn't looking, he reached up to the surgical table and popped him in his mouth. Like, so crazy. Flower in a book thing. Yes, like preserving flowers. Or when they do the pressed fairies, there's like a Ren Fair or Comic-Con, who are they, the Dowds? I think it's the Dowd family. They have the pressed fairy books. Be just like pressed wieners. It'll just pretty much be, oh, okay, go have a safe evening, do good work. Yeah, pressed wieners. I think that would be freaking hilarious. Wiener under glass, whatever. But it would mostly just be the erectile tissue and the testicles kind of flattened out. Pretty gross, but funny to me. So let's find a different topic that doesn't involve organs. What do we have? So the weekend was really up and down. Friday was something. Friday night, I feel like I did something. I can't remember what it was. I'm sure it was lovely. Saturday, went to a support group, and that was very hard. I just wasn't feeling it from the get-go. So just trying to put on a good face and be supportive for people that needed it was a little difficult on Saturday morning. And then Saturday evening, went to a birthday party for a friend and just trying to get ready. I tried on a dress that I'd worn a couple of years ago. And I don't know if it was the memory of who I was a couple of years ago creeping in, or just, I don't know, something about it in the mirror. I had a bad dysphoric moment, and it was breaking, and that was very difficult. So I was trying to make light of the situation and said, well, because I'm a cow, I can't be a pretty princess, but I'll be like, fuck it, I'll be a proud queen. And I wore something completely different and ended up doing my makeup, and that part was okay. But man, just people you're not allowed to call yourself a cow. It's like, don't invalidate my feelings. I am allowed to feel that. That may not be the healthiest thing, but other people don't get to tell me that my feelings are wrong, because that is how I felt. So that was frustrating. And it's all people that say things like that out of love. They're not trying to be mean. It's just, sometimes you feel the bad things and you need to be allowed to feel them. So it's hard, I think, for other people to see somebody and let them talk shit about themselves. Like, people I know that are heavier than me are just like, well, if you're a cow, I'm a buffalo. It's like, no, I don't see my friends in that way. I don't judge my friends in that way. I'm only judging myself. I'm not judging my friends. So, Amy, when you say that you're jealous of me, it's like, that's a little hard. I don't like to hear that. It makes me feel like, why? And I understand that's a lot of a self-esteem issue, but as my wife says, people with large egos and small self-esteems, we make for the most interesting problems. But yeah, it's just really hard. I don't know how I should get over that, if I have to get over that, or is it just something that's going to gradually be less and less. So, to you, I look beautiful to you. What I hate is when I'm trying, because when I'm trying to look cute, that is when I look the worst in my mind. So I don't try. If I try and fail, then, if I don't try, then I can't fail. So, no, seriously, I please stop. Please stop. I'm glad you had fun on Sunday with a friend, though. Get to go out, maybe do a little shopping, just strolling around. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so this weekend was pretty emotional. yesterday was kind of recovering from Saturday's up and downs. Went to a friend's house and we watched Game of Thrones, and that was lovely. This particular set of friends, they make the most amazing spreads of like cheeses and meats and fruits and everything. And I don't know if you've read the books for Song of Fire and Ice, or Ice and Fire. Whoops. They always, George R. Martin always describes in like the absolute ridiculous minute detail of all of the courses of meals. And so like when Tara puts out a spread, she puts out a spread of like all these different things, and there's fruit tarts, and there's little pastries, and there's cheese boards and mustards and all this stuff, and it's always lovely going over there. And then we got to watch Game of Thrones, which was lovely, and we had a lovely evening, and it was a great end to the weekend. So I don't think they'll still see it. I don't think they'll ever see this, but thank you, Tara and Manoli, for having a lovely Sunday, and thank you for inviting us. What is still self-reflection, negative or not? Yeah, I mean, my internal dialogue can be very negative, but it's still my dialogue, and even if I share it outside, it was still what I was feeling at the time. And Chris Sari, hello. So yeah, that's just kind of my thing on that, is I just, if I'm getting down on myself, it is never because I want people to turn around and give me a bunch of compliments. It's more just me going, yep, this is how I felt at the time. I don't know if I need consolation. When I see other people being down on themselves, somebody in the same ways that I am, I try to never say, no, you're wrong. Somebody's like, I'm just an ugly troll. It's not, you're not an ugly troll, because that's just me saying, well, no, you're wrong, you're stupid. It's not that. It's more like, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I hope you don't feel that way all the time. That's kind of where I try to bring my support from, because I don't want to invalidate how that person is feeling right now, because it does hurt. And I don't know if most of you or any of you are like me. When people try to be nice to you when you're feeling down, all it does is make you feel worse. Because then at that point you stop feeling like, you don't feel that you're worthy of the niceties that people are giving you. So it's like, I don't want to, invalidate people for that. And instead it's just going to be, I hope you can work your way through this, because I know it's hard. And that's usually, from my perspective, that's my better answer that I would like to hear, and that I would like to, give to other people. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of blowing smoke up people's asses about, super positive all the time, when maybe there's a reason to be negative that day. That's the whole concept of a whole lot of therapy, is wise mind, where your emotional mind and your intellectual mind meet halfway, and you can evaluate that your emotional response is relevant and adequate to the situation. Because sometimes somebody doesn't look that good. Myself, I do this all the time, where it's like I can go back and look at pictures and like, I thought I looked good, and if somebody had just told me that my eyes were all screwed up, maybe I could have looked better. Because now I'm looking at these pictures going, why the hell did I leave the house like that? I wish people could be more honest about those things. And I don't mean to be like in a hurtful way. It doesn't have to be in a hurtful way. Just open and honest. But it's very hard. Thank you, Naomi. And that's usually what it is. It's a kind of just a commiseration. It's just that's all I'm ever looking for. I appreciate that people are trying to help. I don't want to invalidate that. I understand people are trying to be helpful. I just don't know if people forget what that headspace is like, or if I don't know if they've ever felt that headspace. But I don't know. Maybe for some of you, hearing those positive compliments and things like that when you're down on yourself helps you. But for me, it doesn't. It really puts me in a darker place. And it's just like, why are these people being so nice to me? I must have them all fooled. And that's something that is even more ridiculous. When I'm thinking about it, like now, I'm in a good mood, and it seems like a really ridiculous thought. But, at the same time, when you're in that headspace, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole and have a hard time turning around and coming back. So, perhaps I think one of the things that we can learn from this, or at least I can, is maybe check in. Somebody's having a bad time or a bad day, find out what it is. What do you need? What do you need right now? And maybe that person doesn't know, but a whole lot of, hip hip hooray for some people. A whole lot of just they're there, pat you on the back. And some people might just be, buck up, little camper. And that same person might have a different feeling on a different day. So I think maybe just checking in and finding out what is it that you're looking for in support. What does support mean to you today, right now? How can I best help you? Would be good. Yeah. A lot of times just a hug. Hugs are amazing. I go around my support group and I like to give as many hugs as possible, but what people don't always realize is I'm also getting as many hugs as possible. That's my recharge from the group. I don't necessarily go to group for like emotional support in a conversational way. Part of it is I just can't shut up. I like to talk. I've seen, I've got some fairly good experiences and I want to share them. But the other piece of it is I love getting the hugs from people. And there have been a couple of people that have been just, very resistant. They're hug resistant. And I try not to pressure people, but I will ask. And it's like, is this the week we're going to hug? And sometimes it might take 8 or 9 times before somebody goes, yeah, I think this is the week. And I don't think anybody ever regrets giving or getting a hug, unless there's creepiness. But this isn't what this is about today. So, yeah, I think that's just a totally different thing. Thank you, Amy, and I love getting hugs from you. That's always, I think, the best part of those days. So I got like 3 minutes left. Does anybody have like super like interesting, detailed conversational stuff that they want to get into? I assume 3 minutes. Yeah. I think I started right at 8 o'clock, and it's 8:57. God, these hours go fast. Yeah. Just be there. Have a hug ready. Lend an ear. I don't know if you drink. Have a drink. Oh, minute 57 remaining. One of these times. So I think next week I'm going to try to have Lauren on, and we're going to have a chat together. So I better buy a better bottle of wine that I want to drink more of. This is kind of bland and tart. But that's California Pinot Noir for me. That seems to be the flavor that comes out of the coast. This is Santa Barbara. Yeah, not my favorite. Favorite video game. Right now, my favorite video game is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. It's a mobile game. Favorite of all time, though, I would say was Legend of Zelda, the first one. Definitely. Yeah, that one knew inside and out, could beat it in 4 hours, and I also like trying to get everything accomplished in the game as well. So I'm a completist when it comes to games. I like to, dungeon crawlers. I love the Diablo and Diablo 2. I like those a lot because I like to go and open every door and smash every chest and complete every quest. I loved EverQuest, the first one. That was my favorite MMO. But everybody went to WoW, which was disappointing. It looked like a cartoon version and watered down. But, is what it is. Blizzard likes to steal content and package it much better and make a good product out of it. So it's been the best so far. What other kinds? Those are my main favorite games. Yes. Yeah, I loved Zelda a lot, but I've got 10 seconds left. I want to thank you all for joining me for this hour. I hope you guys all have a lovely week, and I'll talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.